It is Monday, July 20th, and welcome back to the Very Real Podcast, the one-stop shop for gamers to get their weekly dose of worldwide news and politics. I'm your host, Great Value, and with me this time is Noxel from Moonlit Gaming again. Hi, Noxel. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy to be back one more time.
Yeah, as it
Shout
turns
outs
out,
to
as it
Yeah,
turns
yeah, go
out,
ahead, go ahead.
as it turns out, our friend of the channel, TrustyKnuckle, he died in childbirth.
In childbirth.
Yep.
It
He.
never existed. All those videos with him just like they weren't real.
Yep.
This podcast is real, but he wasn't.
That's true. He texted me because I wanted a comment from him about his boy preggersness, and he said he died. He said it didn't hurt though. It's okay. Uh, I think he'll get better, but in the meantime, he'll be dead. We'll miss him. Thoughts and prayers in the comments. Thoughts and prayers. I miss him dearly. So
I
how's
also miss
Pokemon?
him.
How's Pokemon treating you?
Oh, it's great. It's fun. I enjoy it.
That's good to hear. So, as usual, we're going to be playing our 5 games of Smash Bros. While discussing 5 topics from the week. You know, I like that phrase where it's like sometimes, like in months, nothing happens, but months happen in weeks or something like that. Something that Lennon said. But every week so far has been like everything happened. Like the Leviathan is back. I don't know, they discovered like a new mutagen that's gonna wipe out half the universe, and that's like something we can't even cover because too much is happening, just way too much.
That's how it goes these days. I didn't even know I didn't even know the Leviathan was here to begin with.
Yeah, it's
So
back.
that is news to me.
Exactly, and no one's covering it because we're too busy trying to cope with our 5 news topics of the day. So, our first topic of the day, we're going to be talking about Cyclospora. So, as it turns out, there has been a contamination of Cyclospora within lettuce. This comes from 5 states reporting or confirming that lettuce has been the source of this disease. So, this disease gives you that shitty ass diarrhea, pun very much intended, and it's a food-borne illness. And they found the um, source of it to be iceberg lettuce from central Mexico. So the main source of it comes from Taylor Farms, which is a supplier to a bunch of grocery stores and to a bunch of food or a bunch of restaurants like Taco Bell, as stated previously. Taylor Farms has been linked to uh, other outbreaks, such as in 2024 when it had an outbreak with McDonald's Quarter Pounders, and 2012 and 2015 where it also linked to Cyclospora. And so it isn't the first time that it has happened, but as of this morning, apparently they're not guilty. And the CDC and the USDA announced that it wasn't them. And so that's really interesting because despite the fact that Taylor Farms has been the source of previous controversies when it comes to Cyclospora, they're not the ones who are to blame. There's some conspiracy theories that are saying that it's because Taylor Farm CEO has donated to MAGA, has been a vocal supporter of Trump, but there's no real way to prove it. But it's interesting to say the least that Taylor Farms has contributed to the campaign, and all of a sudden they're blame free. But this disease, which I found really interesting in one of the articles that is in the bottom, or that I linked to you and is in the description, says that like a lot of the cuts that have happened with the Trump administration, with Doge, have probably contributed to the spread of this disease. So monitoring software and the monitoring of Cyclospora has been cut so that it's pretty hard to gauge whether or not their Cyclospora is actually in our system. Also, due to Medicare, Medicaid cuts, a lot of people are not getting tested for Cyclospora because the $120 test is not covered by Medicare or Medicaid. So there's a lot of underreporting going on. But it seems like a huge preventable mess. And I remember seeing like some, I don't know, some people who were I guess supportive of the Doge cuts said that like, hey, it's okay that they cut Doge because if it ends up happening that like something bad happens, like the Cyclospora thing or the screwworm stuff happens, then we know that monitoring program was load bearing and we should we should keep it. Big problem with that though is think about the opportunity cost. Like there's a bunch of people in the hospital with this poo pee pee diarrhea, and it's not good. So how do you feel about what's going on, Mr. Knoxel Squirsh?
It's a lot of these stories sometimes you see it happen and it doesn't necessarily affect you directly. Not that I have had explosive diarrhea recently, but this is one of those situations where like it kind of affects everyone in the sense that everyone sort of has this on their mind right now, right?
Yeah.
Like anytime you eat something with lettuce, or maybe not the lettuce, apparently.
Yeah, it could be there's other
It
things
could be
reported.
anything. It actually could be, right? Obviously, I think people are fair to speculate, but we don't know, right? Like I believe one of the articles mentioned, and I saw someone else mention this too. It is difficult to test for this parasite, so it's very possible that it was a false positive, um, or it could be corruption. Who knows? But
It could be.
but
That's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, it
the
could be. It could
the
be both, like legitimately. Um,
the funny part
but
about this is that we have to ask ourselves if it is corruption. Like it is a
yeah,
conspiracy
yeah.
theory, of course, but under previous administrations, I would go so far as to say like Biden, Obama, Bush, we would be asking ourselves like, okay, well, maybe we should invest more monitoring software instead of, hey, I think they're like being bribed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to your point though, right? It's the cutting of a lot of the monitoring stuff. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, I believe they denied that that was a
Yeah,
factor. Of course, they would.
RF,
But
yeah,
like, let's be honest though. When you cut enough funding for a lot of these systems that are supposed to monitor it, maybe if you like cut one thing, or you can sort of get by, right? But at some point, when you cut enough of the regulations, bad things start to happen,
yep,
right? And so when you see this, when you see the screw worms, like we mentioned before, right? Like if it was just one of these things, you could say, okay, maybe it's just a fluke. It is now a multitude of similar issues, and it's hard to not point the finger at a lot of the deregulation, a lot of the cuts to these programs that are meant to protect us, right? So
yep.
you know,
Back in March of 2025, the Trump administration cut 12 billion in public funding. So that
yeah,
includes like monitoring and funding to the CDC. And Chief Medical Officer of the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, or ASTHO, was on record to say if you go down one member of your soccer team, you might not be able to trace that back to every goal you lost, but you're going to see an impact. Obviously making reference to
right, right,
the World Cup, which we will cover later. But it's like RFK is on record saying like, oh nope, there's this cyclospora outbreaks every year, and it's something that like you should expect. But what he fails to mention is that it's astronomically more than what we usually get every year, and he fails to mention the budget cuts. Actually, he goes as far as to say like, oh, the budget cuts did nothing, and it's just a hoax. It's a conspiracy theory, and it's something perpetuated by leftists who
right.
hate America. But like you said, we're going to see this happen more and more often, and it's not just going to be in health. It's going to be in things like uh, I guess traffic accidents or in safety monitoring, like OSHA is being cut to, and all these programs that were designed to help the average American is all of a sudden going to be cut. And we're not going to see these protections helping our patriots, our
Yeah,
workers, and
and
it
I think the other
sucks.
thing, about the story too, you touched on it earlier with the medical costs, right? Because like as much as this is the largest outbreak that we've seen in a very long time, according to the articles, it is also true that the number is gonna be way underreported because not everyone that gets, this explosive diarrhea is gonna be reporting it,
Yep.
right?
It's
And
a
so the
hundred and
actual
twenty-two
number is
dollars.
higher than whatever it is that's reported.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then on top of that, the way that the public health costs is always going to be inevitably tied to healthcare costs and access to healthcare. I mean,
$122 per test. It's stupid. So, any closing thoughts on the Cyclospore outbreak and the defunding of several key uh, programs designed to keep America safe?
it would be nice to not have to worry about a new random disease every couple weeks, and it would also be nice to have healthcare.
No, they're gonna bring back the plague. Like the Black Plague will come back, and
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
that'll just be one like a little footnote in this administration. Be like, oh yeah, the
the
plague
the
came back.
positive of this story is that at least as unpleasant as it's been, it is usually not life threatening.
Yep.
Although there have been people that have been hospitalized, so that's like the one silver lining here. This isn't so far something that will necessarily kill you. Um,
Yeah.
I'm sure it could. I'm sure it could, but it's not
Yeah.
likely to. So that's the one silver lining to this story.
It's very reminiscent of COVID when Trump was like, it's fine, we were good. Who cares?
Yeah, you'll feel terrible for a couple weeks, but you'll be.
Yeah, you'll be fine. But thankfully, it's
COVID did kill a lot of people, though.
oh yeah. It's also
Yeah.
really hard to spread from person to person. It's not easy. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
very easy to uh, share with someone else, which is another silver lining to
Silver
this.
lining, silver
So,
lining.
but
Yeah.
it is disgusting, and I don't want diarrhea. Okay,
No,
so
no.
on to our next topic. We're going to be talking about the World Cup, and it's been controversial. So, FIFA has been historically, I wouldn't say corrupt, but they've been historically controversial.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to touch on what previous controversies with the organization because time and stuff, but this World Cup has been privy to a lot of controversy. So for example, the Cristiano Ronaldo penalty that was suspended, the Trump Peace Prize, which I frankly don't think gets talked about enough, and then the US player who got his red card overturned, uh and the hydration breaks, the what else? The VAR system, which has been definitely screwing over some teams that it usually wouldn't have screwed over, and it's been a FIFA. It's been a FIFA for of all time. Like I think we're gonna be talking about it for years to come, especially after the next World Cup, which will happen in what, 4 years, and
4 years. Yeah.
yeah, I think I think it's been one of the more entertaining World Cups, not for what's happened on the field, but for what's happened off the field. Especially when it comes to Trump, like after Spain beat Argentina one to
Oh yeah.
zero. Uh, Trump just stuck around there and taking photos with the Spanish team, and it's really entertaining to see that no one wanted him, no one wanted Trump there, and everyone was just kind of pushing him off to the side. And even in photos that Spain took after their win, and we're taking photos with the trophy, they edited him out of the picture, and it was really fun to see. I found that really entertaining. But
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny.
this FIFA, I wouldn't say controversy, but the FIFA stuff, the events that surrounded and were and happened in play and out of play have gotten several people to be pretty upset with what happened with just the organization. And like Intifado has been very cozy with Trump, especially after that whole situation when it came to the US football player who got a red card and it was overturned and allowed him to play versus Belgium the next day. I wanted to talk about that the week that it happened, but there was just too much going on. But I'm happy to talk about it now. I felt like that whole thing it reeked of corruption. Trump was
Oh yeah, for sure.
Trump was on record saying like, "Yep, I had a call with him. I said it was bad and it should be overturned, and he did it because he loves me. He loves America. He loves the U.S." And
I will say, to be fair on that, I'm very much a casual when it comes to soccer. So in terms of actually whether that red card was deserved, I don't know. So I will have to default to the people who know better on that one.
I don't watch soccer. I think the sport is after watching the U.S. play, I had all my biases confirmed because they made that sport look so difficult to play. They made it look like it was the hardest thing in the universe to do. And one of the things that we see like on basketball and baseball and football, we always praise them for making the hard things look effortless. Like the
Yeah, 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 yeah.
backhanding at shortstop or hitting a baseball
Yep, yep.
or making a free throw, making a three-pointer or making a 50-yard pass. These athletes make these things look so effortless, so easy. But for some reason, soccer is the exact opposite. They make the
Yeah.
easiest things look so difficult. I will always point to that stupid ass play done by the goalie that cost the U.S. or the cost U.S. the game there. That stupid ass kick. I don't know if I'll put it on there on video. How they handled the FIFA World Cup. Like, if you remember, we talked about this on the podcast earlier this year. How a Somali referee was denied entry into the U.S. And so it pulled into question how difficult it was for people of neighboring countries, of other countries really, to get into the United States, and how a lot of these non-citizens were treated, how a lot of these non-citizens were denied entry into the country, despite the fact that they just wanted to watch soccer. They just wanted to watch the most beautiful game, and it sucked for them to get it. But the ones who did get in, it was it was a lot of fun seeing the little stories of
Yeah,
like how
yeah.
much they loved ranch, how much they loved American culture, and how much they loved Walmart. One funny story, I was like on Twitter for a while, but it was how these guys from Australia were singing about how they're going to Walmart, like, "We're going to Walmart," or I forgot what the chant was. I'll probably pull it up and put it in the video portion of this. But and then when they got the police were called on them, they started saying, "We're gonna be deported," and it was really funny, and I thought that was cute. I liked that. So how do you feel about the World Cup stuff that went on for the past few
Yeah,
weeks?
yeah. Well, on the World Cup itself, like I said, I am a casual, but I did enjoy the matches that I watched. I mostly started watching uh, the past like week and a half, couple weeks or so. Um, so I have enjoyed it in terms of the actual product on the pitch. In terms of the conversation about the United States as a host country, and technically, by the way, this was supposed to be a three-way host
Yeah.
country thing, right? With Canada and Mexico. Um, you know, I think there are valid questions there, right? And it's funny because we were talking about you mentioned the I play Pokemon. This is a bit of a controversy as well in Pokemon because um, there have been issues with a lot of competitors who qualified for the World Championships, which is being held in San Francisco, I believe. It's in California somewhere. Being
California, more
unable to
like.
get visas for the World Championships, right? And so, to that story about the referee that you mentioned,
Yeah.
right? Being
But
unable to get in.
it wasn't
It's
just
a
him
it's a
too. There were
similar thing. Yeah,
others.
so it's not just limited to just in terms of the World Cup, right? Just in terms of
Just come.
people traveling to the country and tourism in general, right?
Yeah.
There's a real conversation to be had about whether events should be being hosted here as opposed to other places if you can help it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have the answer to that. I don't know what other issues other countries have necessarily, but I think it's a question that's worth asking.
What's funny is that this didn't happen with Mexico or Canada, the other host countries. They had no problem. It was exclusively the U.S. that had these problems.
I'm
And
curious.
like, oh boy, I sure wonder why. But the U.S. is also going to host the Winter and Summer Olympics within the upcoming years, and they're also hosting the Women's World Cup and the women's team obviously being much better than the American team. Um,
The men's team.
yeah, the men's team.
Yeah,
Sorry, the
yeah.
men's team. They pissed me off. I only want. I only watched Team Mexico and Team America, and they played terribly. Again, I don't watch this sport because I have these preconceived notions, which were proven correct, by the way, that this sport is dog shit because of how terrible they played. I cannot. I watch a lot of hockey and a lot of basketball, and a lot of the concepts between all three sports they relate with one another because of just how the sport is played. There's a lot of offense, defense, and a lot of positioning. But team and every American play and Mexican play that I saw was horrible. They played like dog shit, and I was surprised that they made it that far. Apparently, the U.S. team has never has is pretty bad, and for reasons that I saw there. And because of that, it was surprising to see them make it as far as they did. And another controversy or thing that I found really funny about the game, or at least the American team, was their match with Belgium, and the player who was given the red card and was supposed to be suspended for the game was not
Yep.
suspended. And people were questioning, like, okay, if the U.S. were to win with that player, what would happen? Like, would there be an investigation brought? Would there be a protest? Like, what would happen? And the funny thing was, like, that question never came up because the U.S. got dunked on by the fucking Belgium team. And they,
Yeah.
have you ever seen like those games between the mascots and the little league and the even
Yeah.
football players in
Yeah.
football, American football? It looked a lot like that, where the Belgian team just kind of dunked on the fucking American team, and they just outplayed them significantly, and it was frankly embarrassing for the American team. And thankfully, Trump got to dodge the bullet there,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
uh, in one of the more controversial uh, presidencies, he didn't have to have another controversy. But this also made me think about how the European team or how European countries deal with soccer. Like, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, like, oh, our American players aren't even the best athletes, while your European players are the best athletes of your country, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's stupid because obviously soccer is probably the most popular sport in the world. And so
Yes.
there's a heavy emphasis on being the best on in that sport. And so what European countries do is that they invest in youth sports. Like, there's soccer is free for all children to play on the national level, and there are sport camps and soccer camps that are made widely available for each country. I think that, like, there's a football club, soccer club, every 100 yard or 100 miles or something, so it's easily accessible for everybody regardless of income. And because it's free, you have these stories about how these low income soccer players are able to climb up and come from nothing, as opposed to um, the American uh, system, where you have to pay for these soccer camps, you have to pay for coaching, you have to pay for all these things. And it's not just limited to soccer, it's with baseball, football, and
Yeah, yeah.
we just don't
It's
give
a
a shit.
different cultural thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. That gives the youth in other places an advantage in this sport.
So, any closing thoughts on FIFA, on the whole FIFA World Cup?
For as much as you've shit on the sport, I've grown a bigger appreciation. As someone who has never really watched it, I've grown a deeper appreciation for it uh through watching this World
No,
Cup.
I can
But
see the
I
enjoyment of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm not saying that it's not fun to watch. I'm just saying the US team needs to lock the fuck in. They were embarrassing. I don't
Yeah,
care if
yeah.
they made it to the elimination
Yeah.
round. Be
Yeah,
better.
that's fair.
Like the US can't claim to be this world superpower and have the most dog shit team on the field. See, this is why no one's ever going to take China seriously. China's soccer team ass. Terrible. Which is why
Yeah.
China is always going to lose on everything cuz their soccer team shit. So, congratulations to the Spanish team and their 1,000 years of dominance on the world stage. Okay, so now for our fun story. Yeah. It's technically not fun. The past few ones haven't been fun per se. We talked about a man and his unfortunate penis size. And what was I don't remember what last week's was, but it also wasn't fun. But this one's fun for me because I like dunking on these type of people. So Andrew Tate got arrested. So Andrew Tate and his brother were arrested in Miami as British authorities sought to bring them in on extradition for rape and sex trafficking charges. So Andrew Tate, if you don't know, is a terrible person who is a big proponent of the manosphere circle. Like he's the type of person who says like you need to hate women, need to lock in, mog them for being rich as fuck, and bully them. And this resonated a lot with American youth. But as it turned out, he was a pretty bad person. So
Yeah,
this
who
isn't
coulda-
the
who coulda
first time.
guessed?
This isn't the first time that Andrew Tate and his brother have been arrested and brought in for charges. He was also brought in for charges back in 2024 and 2020. Back in 2022 and 2016. No, back in 2022. Only 2022. They moved to Romania in 2016. But for rape and sexual exploitation laws, and they were on trial for a few years, and they're still on trial for what they've done. And but they went all the way to Miami again to make a court appearance for Florida, and they were brought in for extradition charges or through extradition to the UK for rape and sex trafficking violations for these three women. But Andrew Tate is I don't like him. I don't want to get political, but he's a piece of shit, and I'm glad he's going to jail. Or I hope he goes to jail. Technically, I don't know what it's like over
Yeah.
there in the communist country of the UK, but at least here in America, you're innocent till proven guilty. I don't know if it's like that over there. I don't. I didn't bother to check that because I thought it was funny if I didn't know. But ignorance is funny sometimes. But we're waiting to see whether or not these charges do go through, and he actually does go to jail for what he's done. It's what's crazy is that he even admits it on his social media. He's like,
Yeah.
I have done XYZ and I enjoyed it. And one of the claims that he makes, and he's made on while he was arrested and while he was being charged, he said like, "Oh, these are just jokes. These are jokes that I make with my friends." And it's like, are they? Like you brag about how much you despise women and think that they're inferior objects that are only made for sexual pleasure, and like, are you sure you really joke about these things that are pretty easily proven, by the way, with all
Yeah,
the
the
records
the
that they
funny
have
thing
on.
is like you say that, and I think some people may hear that and think, oh, you're exaggerating. But if you actually listen to what he says, he pretty much says that.
No, like
He just says it. Yeah.
that's why he's a
Like if
terrible
that's
person.
what I'm saying. Like if someone hadn't heard Andrew Tate talk, they might hear that and think, oh, you're exaggerating.
No.
You're. But you're not really exaggerating.
No, he's on, like, if you even pull up his
Yes.
tweets, just
Yes.
pull up his Twitter, you'll see like he's on record and saying like women are objects and you should not respect them as people. Like, and I wish this was a joke and I was over exaggerating like I do with when I make fun of Trump, but no, this is for real. He does this shit, and he's sold courses on the internet over like how to be an alpha male and how to I guess attract women, but in reality his advice is just misogyny. And it's I'm glad he's out of the public image, or at least going to be out of the public image for a while if he does end up going to jail. But how do you feel about Andrew Tate and let's just lump them all together. These male influencers.
Not good for the youth. I mean, as you said, innocent until proven guilty. So technically, they haven't been charged with anything or like, found guilty of anything,
Yeah.
as far as I'm aware. But even if they were not guilty of the terrible things that they are being accused of, it's not good for the youth
No,
whatsoever.
they're. I wish I had his course pulled up, but I
Because
don't want
I think the thing about a lot of these guys is that like you said, like we were sort of talking about, it does feel like parody sometimes when you just like say what they say, or like just what their words are. And I think to a degree, uh, there can be times where they're playing it to the camera. Not that they aren't genuinely, believing of these things, but that they do know that if they say it in a way that's inflammatory, they'll get more eyes on them. But I do think that especially when you're young and you see that and you think it's funny, that's something that you can end up gravitating to, and eventually it's just not a healthy thing to like, you know, keep listening to, you know. So
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's a joke, bro. But then the moment that like
and
you
then
kind of agree
eventually
with
it
it,
becomes sort of
yeah,
yeah.
like what is it? I remember this, like it was very popular. Oh, like with the Trump election, the third term shit. Like he's saying like, oh,
Yep, yep, yep,
it's just a
yep.
joke. I don't actually want to do it. I don't want to do. And then he's gonna do it. Like we all know he's gonna run. And
But I think to the Trump point, I think that's a good comparison where people sort of, if you look at the 2020 election, people just like kind of sort of liked him because they thought he was like funny, whether like ironically or not. And that kind of sanitized his image a little bit, and it sort of took away from like how terrible his ideas and policies actually are. And I think that there's a similar dynamic with Andrew Tate, where some of the things he says are so outrageous, where it's almost like ironically funny, but that in a way sort of makes him acceptable to certain people and as like a gateway to very harmful ideas.
it's an excuse to be a bad person by
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
like
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
joke. Because you could just say like, "Oh, I hate women," and then you say like, "No, no, no," like jokingly, like
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Jokingly,
joking.
jokingly.
It's cool because it's a joke, and like maybe it's funny if you, I guess. All right, I wouldn't even say it's funny, but I guess you may chuckle
Right,
at
but
it.
I'm like if you're like a 15-year-old kid
Yeah,
who finds like edgy humor,
and
you know.
it's funny for a little bit, but then in addition to saying like I hate women, and then you are accused of sex trafficking
Right, right,
and
yeah,
give
yeah.
advice and sell courses over why you should hate women, it suddenly doesn't become very funny and instead borders onto this, oh, you're just using it as an excuse to be a misogynist. Like you're just a bad
Yeah, yeah,
person.
yeah, of course, of course.
So any thoughts on Andrew Tate, friend of the pod by the way, yeah, friend of the pod, Andrew Tate being unjustly arrested. Unjustly, that's a word, by the way, look it up.
The legal process
Unjustly.
will play out. I do think it's funny. I remember when he came to Florida. I believe it was a couple years ago. I think Trump had something to do with that, maybe. Um, but I remember there was talk like, "Hey, I thought the Republicans were like against sex criminals, and here they are letting in an
Yep.
immigrant sex criminal."
Yep.
So I thought that was ironic. Apparently he's actually a U.S. citizen, is what I learned. I didn't actually know that,
Yeah,
or like dual citizen. So I guess technically,
he had to
he's an
leave
American.
due to,
But
the crimes he committed on
yeah,
US soil. But Andrew Tate, kind of related. He's been a vocal Trump supporter. He just
yeah,
loves him
yeah,
very much. And I always like pointing this out. You're not racist or sexist for supporting Trump. However, every racist and sexist does support him. It's crazy to find that out. Just the correlation. It's crazy. Okay, so speaking of Trump, we're on to our fourth topic, the Trump speech. So if you don't know, last week he gave a speech, addressed the nation over threats and concerns over the upcoming election. So Trump has been a vocal critic over election integrity, and he says that like our elections are insecure.
That might be an understatement.
Yeah, but
I'm just,
okay, I'm trying to sound a little professional, but yes, he thinks that elections where he didn't win are corrupt, and
And the ones that he did win, they just forgot to.
yeah,
I guess they didn't successfully rig them. I don't know. We'll get to it.
yeah. Well, but in his address to the nation, he basically made it a speech about how we need to pass the Save Act and how elections need to be secured, which it sounds stupid to say like, okay, I agree that elections need to be secured. However, the way he's doing it is not in a way that actually secures elections. So he said that like we need to pass the Save Act, which basically fucks anybody over who is a woman or a person of color or poor, which, as it turns out, is a large portion of the U.S. population. But it also makes voting by mail difficult, which is ironic because that is the way that Trump is or has been voting and will continue to vote, given that he's a resident of Florida and currently doesn't live there. But he during the speech, Trump also focused on election interference during the 2016-2020 and during the 2020 election mostly, and the 2024 election, claiming that China was influencing and interfering with the election and how there needs to be an investigation. And apparently he also declassified a lot of documents in regards to election integrity that do not prove any of his claims. They just didn't prove. He fabricated evidence of like 100,000 people in blue states that voted without permission, and these votes need to be investigated more. But none of these claims were substantiated because they just didn't exist. And he also used that to again pass the Save Act, or try and get the Save Act to be passed, when in reality it doesn't even address the main concerns that Trump was talking about. He stated that these foreign countries influence the election, such as China, and strangely enough, he didn't talk about Russia very much, despite the fact that there were investigations into Russia and their election interference. But Trump, in his big beautiful bill and future, I guess, restructuring of the federal budget, plans on cutting $70 billion in cybersecurity. $707 million in cybersecurity and infrastructure agency. So he's just going to cut that in his newest budget proposal. And so it's really ironic that in the elections where he's lost, as you pointed out, these elections have been beautiful, or no, the elections that he's lost, they have been corrupt. He's been cheated. Billions upon billions of illegals voted. But in the elections where he's won, there is no evidence of tampering, no evidence of any corruption. And what's stupid, and I cannot stress this enough, the 2020 election, which is the one that has been the most controversial, which a bunch of his appointees have been questioned over, which I wish we could have gone over this week, but too much shit happens. He was president at the time. He was president, and those were the elections that were corrupt. So, like, come on, Donnie. Come on. Be fucking for real with us. And he's claiming that in this coming midterms, they're going to, like, the Democrats are going to cheat. And I'm guessing he's going to use that same rhetoric in 2028 when he inevitably does lose out, and Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it. Yeah, I think we talked about it last time I was on the show. That the polling looks pretty good for the Democrats at this point in time for the midterms, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, nothing's set in stone until it actually happens, but it is very possible that the Democrats win big this November, and so him sort of sowing the doubt right now is going to play into that when that happens, right? So
One thing I want to be hesitant about is that we do have these these blue politicians winning in blue states, and while socialism, especially Democrat socialists, is like a boogie word, a word that is taboo, and it's, I guess, new for Americans to experiment with, especially older Americans who were raised on the fact that socialism is the devil, and were raised with like these Cold War fears. So it's, while democratic socialism is new, it's still happening in blue states. Like, we have yet to see a like fully deep red state or a deep red district or a deep red whatever have these democratic socialists, or I guess just left-leaning politicians winning big. But that's what we're gonna see, hopefully, in this upcoming election in the midterms, which I will be voting a million times for, by the way. Oh,
Hey, that sounds like voter fraud, Mr. Trump.
oh yeah. But like, it's
Mr.
cool.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Trump, by the way. So like, I'm
Oh,
committing voter
yeah.
fraud, but for Trump.
No, that's not voter fraud. That's not voter fraud.
That's
That's just 2024.
That's just my that's just me doing my patriotic duty.
Yeah, that's patriotism.
It's patriotism when you break the law, but for Trump. That's the rule, I think.
For the president. It's for the president, dude.
Yeah, it's to secure our future as this capitalist country, because we don't want communism happening in this country. Well, one of my favorite things about just, I guess, political discourse is that Trump loves calling these Democrat socialists communists, and they're not even fucking close, man. I would, I don't want to get too woke.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too political, but I wouldn't even go as far as to say as several of the politicians that people are calling socialists are socialists. They're just like, I guess, leftist.
It's like social democracy, democratic. Yeah.
They're like these social, because like socially they do support programs like free healthcare, free childcare, but they're still supportive of a capitalist system, and it's not. They're not real socialists, I guess, in the same way. Like, we haven't tried real communism, but I just, like, come on, Trump. You can't just keep calling everybody a communist. It doesn't work like that anymore. Your voter base is dying off.
It's really funny watching the Republicans for my entire life, as long as I've been aware of politics, calling every single Democrat a communist, right? They did that to Obama. And now you have people who are to the left of those Democrats coming up, and now they're like, okay, I know we've been calling every single person a communist, but this guy's like a real communist,
like,
you know?
he's for real a communist. And then we're gonna have I don't know, the reincarnated corpse of Mao come in and be like, yeah, I'm a communist, and everyone's going to be like, okay, but this time for real, he's for real a communist.
Yeah.
And I think it's real. You know how like people say like, oh, the Overton window keeps shifting right? I think the communist window keeps actually shifting left. Where the more we call these people communists, the more that they'll actually be communists. I forgot. There was this politician in I think it was a district in New York, backed by Mom Donnie. I forgot her name, but she has been the closest to what I believe is like a fully blown socialist, who is saying like, oh, we need to dismantle the police, like everything needs to, like, we need to free Palestine, all this stuff. And still, I wouldn't even go as far as to call her a socialist, like a true socialist, let alone a communist. But I'm excited to see the day when we get the reincarnated corpse of Mao running for office, and him winning in a deep red district and killing all the landlords, and everyone will be happy about that one. I don't think there's a single person in this country who's like, I love landlords. Landlords are awesome. Maybe we'll see that change.
You never know.
I hope not. I don't like landlords. I'm looking at apartments right now, and I'm thinking to myself, which landlord's dick do I want to suck the most?
That's how it goes.
Like a lot of the apartments I'm even looking at don't even have washer dryers or like a dishwasher setup, which isn't the end of the world. I just would like to have them. All right. Any
Yeah,
closing
yeah.
thoughts on the Trump speech, which basically amounted to nothing? It wasn't even shown on most major networks. Like the speech, these addresses to the nations usually are reserved for things like when Obama personally went over to the Middle East and killed I f- oh my god, the leader of Al Qaeda. I forgot his name. Oh my god, that's been so long. But it's usually reserved for stuff like that, not for talking about how the elections are mismanaged and did not run correctly. At least for me, my closing thoughts for this would be that these speeches are purely meant to be divisive, and especially in a time when we need to have a more unified country. The, the speeches are not doing anybody any favors. They're not helping anyone. They're only causing issues. And I think Trump has finally given up on the idea that he can unite the country. It's not like it was a priority of his, because I remember in his inaugural address, he was talking about the enemy within and how these Democrats are just, or how Democrats are not to be trusted, and now they're his enemy. And so I think at this point it's just fuck it. Let's try to win these upcoming elections and fully establish a right-leaning authoritarian government that doesn't put him in prison or doesn't try to impeach him. So, on to our fifth and final topic. Nothing happened in between. Don't worry about the cut. Nothing happened. Smile. Okay, so on to our fifth and final topic, the wildfires that are going on in Canada. If you have been aware, there have been wildfires going on in Canada. Around 3 million hectares have been burned down. And if you don't know how big a hectare is, it's big as hell. If you were to put it into football field terms, it would be like a billion football fields. No, but it actually is pretty big.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did the conversion rate. I think it's like 1 hectare is like 1,000 meters squared, so it's a big distance. But Canada has been under wildfires, and a large portion has burned, and it's resulted in the air quality of northeastern states and Ontario, Canada, to be almost unbreathable. So governments have warned both U.S. states and Canadian cities to stay indoors, to avoid going outside as often as possible, and if you are going outside, to wear masks. And as we all know, masks are very non-controversial because they are good and have not been associated with anything ever, nothing bad. But it's really a travesty, and scientists are saying that this, what went on, this wildfire, is a direct result of climate change, as this has been a above average uh, June and July in terms of weather, in terms of temperature, as
Oh,
it's been absurdly hot, and there has been a lack of rainfall. So it's a historically low rainfall period, and that has contributed directly to the wildfires. And Trump has been on record stating that Canada needs to do a better job of maintaining their wildfires and their forest health, which is really funny because earlier last year and previous years before, Canada has been really helpful when it comes to like the California wildfires and wildfires up in the north. And so it's a really stark contrast to Canada, who is supposedly supposed to be our friends, um, not receiving any U.S. help, despite the fact that they have been helpful for us. And some Republican politicians have used this wildfire situation to call for the annexation of Canada as the 51st state, which is crazy. But it's truly a devastating thing. It's caused several health issues um, within Canadian households, and it's really a travesty given how much it has affected Canada and some parts of the U.S. But how how are you seeing these wildfires? How do you think the U.S. is should respond to what's going on in a more effective manner?
Yeah. In what sense? Respond in what sense?
Okay, so several Democratic cities or some Democratic states like Maine,
Right. Like offer
Massachusetts
support. Yeah. Yeah.
are offering support and are offering like water bombs and water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I think so. I think so.
but
Uh,
I don't
First
think.
off,
Oh,
because yeah, yeah. First off, just because I think it's a good thing to do to help stop wildfires that are affecting people, but also like it has an effect on places in the United States, right? Like um, part of the controversy here is that the air quality because of the wildfires is not the greatest, and that has spread to parts of the northern U.S. Right, like
yeah,
Michigan, I believe was
Michigan,
stated.
Minnesota, yeah,
Yeah.
those that area.
So there is a vested interest for the U.S. to get involved for you know its own people as well, not just in terms of doing the right thing or whatever. So yeah, I think so.
What bothers me the most is that Canada has been helpful when it comes to US wildfires, especially when we had the wildfires in California. Canada was there to supply aid and supply firefighters to help with the wildfires in California. And the US is like, "Fuck you. No." And in fact, Trump has been critical of Premier Ford's response to the situation, claiming that he needs to do a better job. And Ford has been vocal about being upset that the president is not being more helpful as of right now because, believe it or not, this is something that is difficult to maintain. Like these uh, these wildfires are hard to contain within their own little area just because of how dry the area is. And we
Right.
have a total of 10 communities already being evacuated from the area. And it thankfully there seems to be rain in the forecast, and so that will help with the wildfires and the air quality. But it seems like it's going to be rough for at least a little bit. So, any closing thoughts on the Canadian wildfires?
Yeah, a couple of things. One, I would say it's kind of similar, right, to what we were talking about earlier with deregulation as it pertains to public health, right? Similar thing with climate change, I feel like, where, one instance, two instances, you can say it's a coincidence or whatever, but compounding all of the instances, that's when you sort of see the pattern, right? And then also similar, I believe one of the articles mentioned that once again, silver lining. I believe there have been no casualties, like no one has died from this. That is the silver lining, like
Yeah,
the other story.
it's been mostly in rural areas of Ontario, which is good in quotations. It's still devastating to see all the
Right, right, right.
wildfires, but it's much better than if this was happening in a more heavily populated area. And it's, you know, I wish that the US did a better response and was more proactive about keeping these things at bay. It's like the preventative measures that we would see in like vaccinations, where you try to
Right.
get an area vaccinated so that herd vaccinations take care of the ones who may not due to reasons beyond our control. But it's the same with this with the wildfires. Uh, Trying to prevent climate change helps these issues, and it prevents issues like wildfires from starting over, or and even like rising sea levels. It prevents areas from flooding. It prevents uh, crops to fail due to drought. And so, like investments into climate change, investments into preventing it, uh, pay off in the long term. And here we see, like, I remember Trump pulling out of the Paris Accords uh, back in his first administration, and Trump repealing a lot of the Green New Deal policies to push coal. These are not immediate effects of it, but they are effects of the Bush administration doing nothing for climate change, and Reagan's deregulations. These are direct effects of that, and we won't see how Trump's policies will affect us maybe now, but within the next 20 years, probably.
Yeah.
And so it's
Well said.
dark.
Well said.
I remember John Krasinski having his dumbass little YouTube channel where it's like, we're gonna go over the good news today. We're gonna be going over I wonder if he still has that dumbass YouTube channel. I'm gonna look it up right now. But any final words for wildfires?
I disapprove of wildfires. I hope we do a better job of containing them.
Very controversial on your end to
Yeah.
to
We
be
are always
anti-wildfire.
quite
Okay.
controversial here. So
So I have his news channel pulled up. He hasn't posted in 5 years. So according to John Krasinski, there hasn't been good news in the past 5 years, which is true. Name one
yeah.
good thing that has happened in this country.
Jeez. In the last 5 years, what's
Yeah.
that? 2021.
Yep. Remember, this was a project that was done during COVID.
Dang. I'm sure there's something, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
I got one piece of good news. I got a cat named Mickey, and she is lovely. That is good news.
Yes, that's
All
great
right.
news.
So thank you, Mr. Noxel Squirsh, for filling in for our dead friend TrustyKnuckle. Many thoughts and prayers for him. Be sure to rest in peace. I'll probably call him tomorrow, see how he's doing in hell. He told me he's not exactly in hell, but he's in like pre-hell, like a purgatory kinda. Okay,
Okay,
so
I've never heard of that before, but I that's a very fascinating
yeah,
area to be in.
he's having a good time. So anything you want to plug before we end it?
Yeah, shout outs to Moonlit Mellows, Moonlit Gaming. Those are the YouTube channels I work on, and sub to the pod.
Sub to the pod. I officially changed my tag to that last night. Okay,
Yeah, I
but
saw that.
be sure to subscribe to Moonlit Gaming. And as always, if you have any thoughts or comments about anything we talked about, please let us know in the comments. And if you have any suggestions about future topics, let us know about that too. If you want to support the channel, the best way is by liking, subscribing, and sharing this podcast with your friends. I will talk to you guys next week on the Very Real Podcast. Bye, everybody.